boy, is this guy crazy. Is this a cult if I ever heard one? Yes, it is. It's a cult. I mean, it's the cult of cults.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be discussing 10 mind control techniques used by cults.
You said all these horrible things about what would happen to me if I left because the world was such an evil place.
For this video, we'll be analyzing the most commonly used methodologies utilized by those at the head of cults, techniques often employed to retain their positions of power and influence. Were you aware of all these examples? Let us know in the comments. Controlling the environment and narrative. The act of brainwashing or mind control is often at the center of any cult.
Is this a form of psychoanalysis?
No, psychoanalysis, they lay back. Don't associate Scientology with such people.
Leaders of these groups need to ensure that the environment around them is controlled at all times, in order to ensure total submission by those following the cult. There have been historical examples of cult members that have been forced to give away all of their personal finances, presumably in order to facilitate a more focused devotion to that cult's aims and goals.
After many years and much money, those most deserving are saved, deemed clear of bad alien energy. It's the peak that every good Scientologist strives for.
Furthermore, outright rejection of those forces hostile to the cult's aims only work to further strengthen this aforementioned control over what's going on within these cult hierarchies at all times.
I don't know other churches that demand to destroy people's lives if they leave and speak out publicly against it.
Challenging criticism. Our next topic ties heavily into the need to control, and it can usually be seen within those who have devoted their lives fully into that group's confines and teachings.
We came from distant space, what your religious literature would call the kingdom of heaven, and we're about to return.
Hence, all connection with the outside world and their former lives is shunned, oftentimes to the point of outright criticism or hostile confrontation.
In retaliation, she says she is often followed and harassed. To further intimidate her, her house has been broken into.
This feeling of paranoia and persecution is often associated with those who have been fully indoctrinated into their respective group's culture and lifestyle.
You have to realize that when Jesus met his disciples, he said, you have to leave your family behind.
Fear of punishment. Another aspect of mind control that often comes up when discussing cults is fear of punishment and the system of punishment and reward.
The brainwashing was so effective, and of course the threat of violence, the constant threat of violence.
Cult leaders and those who assist them make it a priority to induce dependency upon their members. Free will and thought need to be abandoned in order to better service the cult and its needs. Rewards are given to those who fall in line, while punishments are doled out to those who still lean into autonomous direction.
I just was so exhausted and I was in so much pain. And I was so nauseous from the exercise that I went and vomited.
Above it all is the need to keep the leader happy and content at all times, to address all personal behavior to further promote the cult's well-being. Induced dependency.
They had their own rooms, they had every need taken care of, they had their food provided. They were well looked after.
The mind control techniques utilized by cults are often interconnected in a very intentional manner. We've already mentioned how retaining a system of punishment, reward, and fear keeps members in line. But how exactly do those members wind up so induced into a state of total dependency? There are many ways in which this is achieved, including something known colloquially as love bombing. This is when members of a cult are bombarded with feelings of acceptance and love unlike any they likely have ever felt in their lives.
He said, if you see me as your friend, I'll be your friend. As you see me as your father, I'll be your father. He said, if you see me as your God, I'll be your God.
Furthermore, these feelings of acceptance then tie into life within that cult. All acts of alienation are presented as being the product of the outside world. This ensures an insular dependence upon cult life.
Give a very fond embrace, a salutary kiss of greeting to your neighbor, and let's fill this atmosphere with warmth and love.
Trance-inducing behavior.
I felt euphoric, higher than a kite in this meeting.
Lives for those within a cult system can often be regimented, and this is by design. Cults often employ ritual and certain types of behavior that are designed to promote a tranquil feeling, similar to that of a trance. These could include daily meditation rituals or even worship sessions similar to that of a church mass.
I felt like I sat in front of the equivalent of Jesus.
In fact, critics of organized religion often point out certain similarities between how both certain church groups and cult groups operate. One outlier of this comparison, however, ties into our aforementioned discussion of punishment, whereby some cults will actively rebuke those who don't commit fully to these hypnotic and trance-inducing rituals. Selling a lifestyle.
ESP Nexium is a methodology that allows people to optimize their experience and behavior.
The idea of not knowing one is in a cult until it's too late often comes up when talking with ex-cult members. This is intentional and by design. It's imperative for those in charge of promoting a cult to sell this sort of lifestyle in a positive and non-threatening way. This is done by systematically identifying those individuals that might succumb to the cult's recruitment process. This could be done amorously via the process known as flirty fishing. Other times it could just be to encourage a friend or passing acquaintance to visit a group meeting or activity. Above all, it's important to sell a cult's lifestyle and culture in a manner that feels engaging, loving, and positive.
Everybody's too nice, too kind, it's all full of shit. Something's not right. And she goes, huh, really? What if it's you that's looking for that problem?
Regimented behavior. Life within a cult system can be a harrowing experience, sometimes with drastic repercussions to one's physical health and well-being.
When my kids left here, they were very thin and malnourished. I haven't seen them since they were taken to foster care.
We often think of group dances, singing, and clapping as examples of the regimented behavior of cults, and this certainly has precedent. However, it's also important to note how not all regimented behavior is created equal. There's often an even darker side to what's expected of certain cult members. Deprivation of food, water, and sleep is a proven mind control technique, and it's one that's been employed often by cults over the years.
One lady told everyone that we were running out of time. There was no time to continue farming. It was time to fast, pray, and eventually meet Jesus.
It all ties once again into that delicate balance of punishment and reward, with total submission to the cult being the ultimate goal. Gaslighting.
People play games, friend. They lie. What can I do about lies?
It's important to distinguish the slang utilization of the term gaslighting against what actually goes on when one's mental faculties are called into question while living under a cult. Jim Jones was a master manipulator of people who used gaslighting techniques to brainwash hundreds into following his orders at the Jonestown compound in Guyana.
Started as an effort by a charismatic preacher to build a new society, but it ended, of course, with the tragic deaths of more than 900 people.
For cult leaders, it's imperative that everyone under them lose that autonomy of thought. That mental subservience is given to those atop the cult's hierarchy.
David was our Christ, giving us the truths from God.
Cult members, as a result, are often assaulted with manipulative behavior that's designed to undermine their perception of reality at all times. Thought reform. Just as gaslighting serves as a tool within the cult leader's arsenal of weaponized emotional manipulation, so too does thought reform come into play as a blanket catch-all for total control. Cult leaders direct the narrative and utilize techniques such as visual or auditory propaganda to further reform and mold the thoughts of cult members.
It's common for the person who is awakening for his life to begin to fall apart, or her life to begin to fall apart.
The condition of Stockholm Syndrome can then be initiated, specifically with regards to how cult members lose their sense of selves after living under a cult's rules. This is the ultimate goal of the brainwashing techniques employed by cult leaders to ensure docile and obedient followers at all times.
No regrets. It's been such an accelerated growth experience that no matter what happens, I could never regret taking this move.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Isolation.
You said all these horrible things about what would happen to me if I left because the world was such an evil place.
This is probably the most important mind control technique within a cult leader's arsenal. Talk of isolation comes up again and again when researching life under a cult, an intrinsic link between those at the top and those following their orders. Cult members are instructed to leave their former lives behind, to associate only with those individuals associated with the cult, and not to have any further contact with the outside world.
They have their children speaking about their mothers and their fathers, and fathers talking against their children and not being able to talk to them.
This isolation results in total dependence upon the cult for guidance and ensures that no dissenting voices will enter the group leader's narrative. It's perhaps the most dangerous technique at all, but also sadly the most effective.
You become in a perpetual state of denial of your own reasoning power. You don't reason anymore.